Welcome to the MVPreneur podcast. Have you ever considered leaving your current job to become an independent professional working with a Power Platform or Dynamics 365? Join me as I speak with my fellow MVP colleagues who have made the jump and now earn a living as independents, working on a variety of projects delivering Microsoft Business Application services, training, and subject matter expertise. Hear about their successes and their failures, and maybe be inspired to make your own jump. Or maybe you've decided that staying in your current position is the right decision for you. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. All right, so I'm here today with Jim Novak, and this is the first of a series of episodes where we're talking about going independent, specifically in the Microsoft Business Application space. So what I mean by independent, not working for a company, going out, getting gigs, getting jobs, and learning about experiences, some best practices, some advice. So hopefully, if you're watching this or listening to this, you get an appreciation. Is this a career move for you, or maybe it's not? So let's kick this off. So Jim, how you doing today?
I am doing good.
Awesome.
Thanks for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
So Jim, you've been on your own now for how long have you been on your own?
This time, a little over 3 years. So
Okay.
I've been on my own 3 times over my career, actually.
Oh,
I was
wow.
thinking about it today before I jumped on the call. I'm like, yeah, recent stint, just over 3 years, like 3 years May. So it's been the longest I've been out on my own.
Okay, cool. So what was your entrepreneurial seizure moment, or what made you decide I'm going to go off on my own, either of the 3 times or this time?
Well, that's a great phrase for it. Yeah, so years ago, like 2008, I believe was the first time I went on my own, and I hadn't been in Dynamics at all. So it's custom .NET development. Came from a company that I was at for about 7 years. Did the startup world? We were saving the world. We were doing healthcare stuff, and I got to the point where I realized that I didn't have any control of my own career. Right, I was in a good place. I worked with some really really smart people, so I don't mean to put it down at all. But I was at the mercy of whatever was going on with the company. So I wanted to basically just make my own career. I wanted to make my own decisions, find out my own. My own path. Where do I want to be? Whether I want to stay with development, get into management, project management, et cetera. So that was the first thing that drove me out on my own. And I did that for about a year. And at that time, I don't know if you remember, but like basically the entire world economy collapsed.
Oh, yeah, I remember the financial crisis.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we were in Canada. We actually, I wouldn't say insulated from it. It definitely affected us, but I mean the government pulled a few maneuvers that kind of kept things rolling.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. And where I lived, I was in Baltimore at the time. We were actually, ironically, we were pretty insulated as well because we're proximity to DC and, as you mentioned, government work. Mm-hmm. So I did that for about a year, and then I left the contract, and I didn't want to have to go through the hassle of finding another one. So I took a job which got me into Dynamics. Actually, I took a job with Ascenium at the time. Yeah, that's what got me into Dynamics, and I worked there for a little while. The second time, pretty much the same feeling. I was in a very good place. Once again, I've talked about it before with, so I got into Dynamics with Ascenium, moved to Avanade and eventually Accenture, and I ended up leaving there because I wanted to do my own thing. And I left there very, very fortunate that I was able to, I already had a lot of connections made, and I felt like the difference with what we're doing is there's a big demand for Dynamics talent. I mean, if you look around, people really need help. So I walked out into an environment where there's a demand for the skill that I had, which made a big difference from the generic I can do .NET development, web development, whatever. So that was the second.
Right. So, and you had gigs lined up already, or some contacts? Oh, okay. No, that's cool.
I did have contacts. Ironically, I went to Convergence. It was like one of the last times they held Convergence.
Oh, wow.
And I'd been looking around, and I had some potential contacts. So it wasn't completely like flying blind, but I bumped into somebody I interviewed with there. That was my first contract. So it was very, I'll see if I got the word right. Serendipitous is the word.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, they recognized my picture from my resume and LinkedIn profile. We started talking, and then I've taken a contract there. That was my first run on my own.
Oh, okay. So
Or sorry, second run of my own in
the
Dynamics.
second run on your own, and then
First in Dynamics.
and 3 years ago, your third time, third
Yeah,
strike.
it's funny. I after the first one, I was again very fortunate in the area that I was in. I was in the DC area at this time, and lots of demand for Dynamics in the federal government space, and that's where a lot of experience I had with Accenture. So I had a lot of good contacts, a lot of good of potential customers and former coworkers. So I bumped into a couple of guys I used to work with from the Ascendion Avanade days, and I realized I didn't know what I was doing from the business side. And it was probably a little bit more paranoid than I should have been because I was doing okay, but I wanted to learn how to run my own business. So I started back up with a small company to learn the business side of things. So I went on as a consultant there, very small, 10, 15 people to start off with kind of stuff. So I kind of went back with the intention of learning the ropes to go back out on my own at some point or help grow this practice into a business that I could help run myself. So I was trying to learn a bit, get an education with when I stepped out of the consulting world. And then about 3 years later, same exact thing. I want to control my career. I want to do my own thing. And at this point I had a lot more experience with the business side of things. I understood more about the contracting world, a little bit more about how to estimate, how to manage time and people and things like that. So it was a good experience. It was really good. And I walked out there with customers. So I walked out with a contract.
Okay, cool.
Difference. Big, huge difference when you take that.
And you're in the DC area, right? So,
yep.
In the United States. And so do you do a lot of government work?
Yeah, a lot of my background for quite a few years in Dynamics was focused on the federal government space just because of the company that I worked at. We had a lot of federal work. And then I bounced between some commercial stuff and federal, but because of the background, once you're like, oh, you've got experience with this or you held a clearance, oh, okay, cool, we want you. And there's also a lot of demand for it. It's growing in the government space with the GCC and Azure and the GCC version of Dynamics. It's really catching on in the federal level, obviously, in this area. I'm about 15, 20 minutes outside of DC proper. So I'm right there, and even state and local. There's a lot of traction for Dynamics in that space too. So once again, really fortunate location and timing.
Cool. Are you working on site or are you working remotely?
A little bit of both. It depends on the customer. Yeah, some customers have the on-site requirement just because of security or logistics with the people you're going to work with. But a lot of times you see remote stuff too. It really depends on the contract. Right now, I've got a little bit of both.
Okay, that's cool. Like that's no, it's good to hear that. I mean, the U.S. government embracing that. I mean, that's something in Canada. It's still put on pants and show up at an office. So it's kind of work that I avoid as much as I can. But it's good to and it's
No, it is. Now, it is. You're totally right, though. It's not everywhere, and it's funny. I always joke like you want us to build an enterprise system to allow people all over the world to communicate, but you have to do it here. It's kind of a strange situation, right? So I've been pretty lucky with even if I have to be on site, I've been able to work it. You gain their trust. If you're independent, a lot of times you go in, they know that hey, you work on your own a lot. You're trustworthy, so that goes a long way. And like, okay, I need to work at home a couple days a week. They usually doesn't matter. But some of the federal government work, you have to be connected to their physical network. That's a no-brainer. You can't really get past that.
Yeah. Gotcha. Now you've done this 3 times already, so you probably learned a few lessons. Are there things that, looking back on what you did when you went independent before, that you would say, okay, the next time I go independent, or if I go into time machine, what would you have done differently?
You know what? It's a really good question. I think I'd have been better prepared with a customer base, a pipeline. I've been pretty fortunate, and I keep saying that. I don't want to say I'm lucky, I'm fortunate, because I feel like I made my own opportunities, but I'm fortunate that I've had them. One thing I think that is a risk is a pipeline, right? Having that next customer. I've heard you talk about you've got customers that have been around for 3-4 years. They'll call you when they need you, and that's awesome. But having that next opportunity in the government space is typically longer term, so it's not as much of a risk. But if I went to the commercial world, I think that's something I would be much better prepared for, is having a better brand. Rather than just myself, of we're the go-to people for this, we're the expertise in that, because that will set you up for your next opportunity.
Cool. Now, when you're getting your opportunities or getting your business, are you using your existing network, or are you working through like placement agencies or intermediaries like that?
Yeah, for the last couple of opportunities I've had, probably the last 2 or 3, it's been through my network exclusively. And again, it's partly because of my experience. So I want to take credit for that, right? It's through a reputation. At the same time, a few years ago when I first started out, I did look at agencies, looked at, it's kind of hard to find just contract job boards, right?
Yeah.
LinkedIn, as much as some people love it or hate it, has been really, really good for that. So I get reached out a lot of times by recruiters or firms that are looking for that kind of stuff. But now that you've been out in the world and you get known in the industry, where it's as many people are doing as what we do, is it's still a small world.
Mm-hmm.
The last 2 or 3 opportunities I've had have been, hey, we know you. We want you to come in and do this stuff. So
we hear you're the CRM. We hear that you're the CRM guy. I've gotten calls like that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And then dealing sort of with the future. So like right now, you're, if it's okay for me to say, you're a one man shop basically, like that.
Yep.
Is this something are you considering expanding, or you want to stay to your solopreneurship?
Nice. I'm getting all kinds of phrases today. Solopreneur. No, it's a great question, and that is something that, back to your question about what do you want to consider when making the decision. When I first went out, I wanted to just be me, right? I don't want to manage other people. It's a lot of responsibility, and I waver. I go 6 months. I'm like, I need to build a team because there's so many opportunities, and part of it is selfish, right? I want to build I want to take myself out of being a bottleneck, right? Because the beauty of people knowing who you are is you get opportunities. The downside is they want you, and you can't clone yourself, right? At least not yet. So then there are other times where, like, you know what, I don't want to deal with that. So I waver. Probably every couple of months I go through I need to build a team, I need to back off. I need to build a team, I need to back off. And it really depends on what's in front of me. But I think for the near term, what I'm working on now, and it's because a lot of the community stuff I'm doing, I'm enjoying the ability to take a contract, have a bucket of hours to work on, and then have more of a routine schedule for I can work on things I want to work on. If I had a team of people, then half of my focus would be keeping them in work. Right.
At least, yeah.
I was going to say, hey, you preaching to the choir. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, absolutely. I've been down both paths, and I'm very much my company's maxed out at one person right now. Yeah. So that's it.
I only got one computer. That's it. We're done. Yeah.
Well, I have more than one customer. So, but it kind of juggles a little bit. So in terms of, like, what are some of the tools that you use to help manage your business or run your business, or are you all kind of I'm just kind of sort of great software tools, things like that.
Yeah, I think I used it was free. I'm trying to think until I think it's Zoho is the product that I use. I don't get a commission or anything. Zoho Books, right? It does invoicing, it does task management, project management, allows me to track my time, because invariably I have to put in my time at least twice, if not 3 or 4 times, depending on the contract. So I've been using that I've probably used that for now like 6-7 years, almost exclusively, and only when you went over a certain number of customers they start charging you. So it was free for a long time. It was great. So I use that. It's great for invoicing. Allows me to send out email, track my invoices, my time. And then at one point I use tax software, but I go to an accountant, and I do that because I don't trust myself, right? I'm not a tax guy. And
so you do hire an accountant to do the tax returns and stuff like that. Yeah.
Small business guy. Absolutely. It's just too complicated for me. I feel like I'm a smart guy, but that's one thing I don't want to. That's a costly mistake, right?
Yeah.
And other than that, I have a website that I use WordPress. I have just a self-hosted WordPress through a small company. I forget what company it is that does the hosting, and that's been great for just doing a website and managing my blog and any kind of project I want to advertise, that kind of stuff.
Cool. Is there any things you kind of tripped up, or big mistakes you've made, or things you kind of really regret that other people could learn from?
Be the example. No, honestly, I'll say it again. I've said it 5 times already. I've been very fortunate. I've had good contracts, worked with good people. One thing I would recommend is really understand a contract before you sign it. And I've been fortunate that my wife, she's ridiculously smart, and she does contract stuff on a regular basis. So I just here, please tell me whether I should sign this or not. So I haven't had any risks there, but understanding what your terms are, what you're agreeing to, what the termination clauses are, any kind of weird insurance things. That's what I ran into recently, is technical insurance. That
Yeah.
kind of stuff I would recommend. I've been close to having some rough deals, but I've walked away pretty
Right.
fortunate to not have the issues there.
And I think anybody that's new to this or thinking about it too, you're allowed to push a contract back with paragraphs straight out or changed or whatever. I mean, I've done that, like even with really, people that I'm really close to,
Absolutely.
and we try to do some business. It's like, they're there for a reason. You want to stay friends, but yeah, I've gone back and said, no, I'm not agreeing to this, or let's reword this.
No, that's a great point. And even you see, you've got friends you work with, very large companies. I have a very large company as a customer right now, and they give you like 72-page contracts. I'm like, oh my God. And they expect you to push back. They expect you to, because it puts them at risk too.
Yeah.
But it's funny. One of the things reminding me of my dad. I always get to quote my dad. He worked in banking for years, and he's like, never do business with somebody you don't feel like you can do business with a handshake. But the contract is there for communication. So
Right, yeah.
if you let something slide, it's not going to help you out, and it's not good for either side. So I totally agree. It's a great point. Push back on it and make sure you understand it. Make sure it's good for everybody involved, not just for you.
Cool. And so you became a Microsoft and MVP it was January, right? So
Yep.
we're getting close to a year now.
Still a rookie.
Yeah, I'm in at 3 years and I still feel like I'm a rookie. But do you think that helped you with your business, or helps you with your business at all, or does it open any doors, or is it just it's kind of an aside thing with the community?
No, it's a great question. I actually, when I went to be an MVP, I made an intentional effort to do it. So I went out and I said, I want to do this. And I had the intention of doing it for business.
Right.
I can't tell you whether it helped or not. I really haven't seen any new opportunities because of it. What it has given me is a lot of trust. And when I can go into a contract, I can say, I've got a whole group of people that I can ask. I got a whole community that I can talk to who are smarter than me. If I don't have the answer, we'll find somebody that does. And I think that's invaluable. And that gives you the trust of the customer, that you're not going in with all the answers, but you are more than willing to ask. I think it's the intangible stuff, but I haven't seen any direct opportunities from it, but it has definitely been a benefit.
Yeah. No, I think as well. Like I don't think I could. Looking back, a lot of the doors that were opened to me because of it helped. Now, not to say I couldn't have done it, but I think it would have taken longer, would have been a harder journey.
Yeah.
And I think just purely on the network. And you're right, having that network of people, like it's nice to say, well, okay, someone will ask a question like on project service automation. Like I have no idea, or field service.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I know people. I know I can, send an email or pick up a call or post something and just get that response.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Any kind of resources, like whether it's books, videos, training, that you'd recommend to anybody that's considering kind of going down this road, making a jump?
I don't know. It's kind of tough to say. I always read several books, like the startup books and all that fun stuff, and they were more for, I'm going to create the next $1 billion opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing I would recommend is anything you can find on work-life balance, because that's the big risk, and something I struggle with on a regular basis with going out on my own is you're never off, right? Now that's a mindset. That's not necessarily true, but it's very easy to slip into that mindset of I'm working all the time. And I'm fortunate that I like what I do. I like working on this stuff, but I also need to just go, not think about it. So if anything that could help you maintain that work-life balance, like, why are you doing it? Are you doing it to make your own career path so that you can work 24 hours a day? Or is it to free you up from commitments that you want to be committed to, that kind of stuff? So I would say make sure you have that in mind as well. So any book that would help you with that, can't think of any off the top of my head, but any resources that would help you with maintaining that balance, I think it'd probably be critical, because it's very easy to fall into it. And then, you start like, oh my gosh, is this my life now? And, that's a big risk of going out on your own.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I heard something the other day. Someone said, being an entrepreneur, being on your own, it's like you're the type of mentality you'd rather work 80 hours for yourself than 40 hours for somebody else.
Yeah.
But I mean, but that kind of leads me to my next question. Like, how do you kind of how would you gauge your work-life balance? Is it good, or is it something you're working on, or do you
I'm
care?
working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I need some help. I need a kick in the butt for it. And again, it's unfortunately I actually enjoy what I do. I take it as a challenge, but at the same time, go for a walk sometime. Go to a movie, and those are things I'm definitely trying to get better at. And I don't feel like, oh God, I got to go to work tomorrow.
Hmm.
I've had contracts where I'm like, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. But you've got those challenges,
Yeah.
but I do have work I'm doing on it. The holidays are nice because they kind of force you to,
Yeah.
and that's kind of a nice, like, okay, you have to take a break. And I'm kicking off a new project, so I have the ability to say, okay, here's my normal, right?
Mhm.
Establish a new normal from the very beginning, as opposed to your customer thinking you're the guy that'll work. I can text you at 6 o'clock in the morning and you'll do something. So establishing your boundaries with a new project is something I'm going to try to take advantage of.
Mhm.
And having my wife help me with that is a big deal. So
Yeah,
it's
cool.
definitely something I'm working on.
So you have a good support system behind you, like encouraging on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
It's or threatening me. I don't know, whichever works.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's definitely important. So yeah, no, this is really good. And just sort of kind of begin to kind of wrap up here. When you're not working on your business or delivering Dynamics 365 or Power Platform projects, so what else do you do? Where is that other side of the balance?
um, it's I I have a couple of things I like to do that I don't do enough. So I like to draw. So I
Oh
draw in my
wow.
spare time. Yeah, and that's something that I'm trying to get back into. My dream job coming out of college, which is a natural progression from, I studied math. I wanted to be a comic book artist. So that's one thing that I've done for years is I've doodled, and I'm trying to get back into drawing more formally as opposed to just doodle whenever I think about it. So,
Cool.
and I read a lot.
Yeah.
I'm always reading something.
Mhm.
Years ago I never read as a kid, but years ago I started reading, and I'm like, wow, I like this. So I used to read, and I try to draw whenever I can, and that's one thing that I need to do more of, and that kind of stuff.
Oh
I
no,
need to
that's
I need to put the time in and dedicate the time. That's where we talk about I need to get more disciplined about it.
perfect. No, I didn't know about that. That's really cool, Jim. That's neat.
Well, it's funny.
Like,
I was thinking about it the other day. Your powerlifting stuff. When I was in college, I drew a T-shirt for the state powerlifting competition. I totally forgot about it. I have to do another one for
oh,
you. Put on
yeah,
your
that.
Ontario powerlifting.
Yeah, yeah. No, that'd be awesome. That's cool. All right, Jim. I appreciate your chatting with me today. And if folks want to get a hold of you or follow you, and I guess the other question is, are you available for any gigs if someone's interested in your services?
Right now, no, no.
Okay.
So
So
thankfully,
this
no.
is this is November. So this will, I'm hoping this will be released early January. So by the
Yeah.
time people are watching this, but okay, no, fair.
Feel
That's
free to
fair.
reach out either way. Yeah. And if
Yeah,
if I can't help you out, maybe we'll find somebody that can.
cool. And in terms of your community stuff, where can people find you for that?
My website, I have a website called futuresconsulting
Okay.
.com, and it's FUTUREZ consulting.com, and it's
It's
where my
it's
blog's at.
it's Zed in Canada, so I'll put
There you
both
go.
in
There you
the
go.
show notes. So
Yeah, I was another dad's story. My dad's nickname was the Futz, so I was looking for a website or a company name that I could abbreviate to the Futz, and that's where that came from.
oh,
Um,
awesome.
yeah. So and then I'm on Twitter at CRM Dev Jim.
Yeah,
Um, Try to post a lot there, and on LinkedIn you can reach me. Just search for my name.
awesome. Well, thanks, Jim, and
Thank you.
definitely appreciate this. And hopefully, and if anybody has any questions about going independent or becoming an entrepreneur or things like that, definitely reach out to us, and we'll answer any questions. So hope to have a few more episodes, a few other people on here, and then maybe we'll do like a big wrap up, a big round table at the end. We'll sort of see how
Oh
that
yeah,
goes.
yeah.
Cool. All right, Jim. Thanks a lot.
Thank
We'll
you.
chat to you later.